All right, hello everyone. Um, Welcome and thanks for joining us for UB Blackstone Launchpad Techstars fourth mutual workshop of the semester. We are recording this meeting just so you know, so we can capture what's sure to be a great event. My name is Andrew Mealy, and I'm joined by Honorary Clark, and we are student assistants at Blackstone Launchpad, and we'll be your host tonight. As you may know, Launchpad is a department located in 220 SU that supports students by encouraging and developing leadership and entrepreneurship in the University of Buffalo. It's designed to help students succeed as a founder or contributor to a growing startup. Today, we're going to be talking about social media marketing for startups, and we've invited an amazing speaker to help lead our discussion. Our focus today will help you learn how to use creativity to your advantage in growing startups and innovating further. So without further ado, let's introduce you to our speaker.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I see. So we have a small room here, so I'd love to like kind of hear who you guys are and what you're working on real quick before we get going, if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Does someone want to start? Like, just give me a quick your company or your idea or your experience. And if you don't have one, that's fine too. Like what you're looking into, like why you're here today.
I could give it a go. Uh, so with kind of like the startup boot camp, I kind of tried two types of things. So the first time I kind of went in with like more like a green type of idea. So it was like aquaponics. So creating like aquaponic systems for like homes and stuff. And like selling aquaponic food and produce. Um, so I didn't really pursue that one. And then the second goal was kind of building a Chinese Asian fusion type of cuisine in Buffalo. Um, and so I think I want to pursue more like that aquaponic systems and kind of automating home food growing. Uh, and so yeah, that's why I'm here. I just want to learn a bit more about like the marketing aspects.
Cool, that's awesome.
I'm Shirley. I'm here to learn more about advertising, and my major right now is graphic design, and I'm interested in both graphic design and advertising.
Awesome. Nice to have you here.
Hi, Kanishka. I am a Blazer in Blackstone Launchpad, and I have been involved with a lot of social media marketing stuff when it comes to like marketing and everything. I've been graphic designing a couple of flyers and like building up YouTube channel. So I'm just looking for more social media marketing advice.
Awesome. Do we have Andy, Nora, and Maya here?
Hi, yeah, I'm just, looking to learn any new strategies or updates that are relevant to targeting your audience, just to build my knowledge base.
Sweet. Cool.
I'll jump in real quick. So I'm here not because of my role at LaunchPad, but kind of. I want to know what we should be doing that we're not doing. So I'm here not really listening to see if I can pick up some skills to support us in LaunchPad.
Sweet. Awesome. All right. That gives me a really good frame to get started. So thank you guys so much for sharing. So can I share my screen?
Yeah, I'll make you a co-host right now.
Thank you.
Cool. You should have the ability to now.
Awesome. All right. So I have a little bit of a presentation for you guys, but we'll kind of open format workshop it. Because I think we can kind of cater to some of the questions and things that you guys specifically have. The primary thing that I wanted to kind of cover is give you guys an idea what the entire formula for marketing is and all the different components. It's a lot simpler than you think it is. And then when you go deeper into different segments, it gets a little bit more complicated, but you don't need to know all that. You just need to know what that funnel at the higher level looks like. And yeah, please stop me and ask me any questions. So here, cool. Okay, that might not be relevant. So let's start right here. So when you know, we talk about social media marketing, but that kind of, there's a lot of elements to social media marketing, right? Social media is, you know, there's online marketing and then there's social media marketing. So social media is a piece of online marketing. And that's something that's really important to understand, because when you have any marketing campaign for any product or service, these are the 5 steps that you always take no matter where you are. And what you want is for someone to buy. So buy can be a sale, but they can be buying into an idea. They could be buying into a ticket sale. Like it's just an action that validates some kind of thing that you're trying to do. Now, you know, channels like Google, when you go on Google and you search for something, that channel is called an intent channel. So right here, right? So that means that anybody that's searching for something on Google has an intent to take an action right after that search. So the step from intent to buy is super short. Now, if you try to get somebody to take a buying action at the awareness level, that's probably not going to happen, right? And that's kind of where I think a lot of people go wrong with social media, is they try their best to push intent at what's supposed to be an awareness level. So social media is usually in these 2 categories up here. It's awareness and interest, and maybe consideration. It's not intent. You know, once people get the awareness and interest, they'll move to your website, or, you know, wherever your product, or like, you know, if you're selling something personally, wherever that decision can be made, that's kind of where the intent is. But social media is like not usually a source for intent-based actions. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? So like a good example of an awareness social media ad campaign, right? So when we create a Facebook advertisement, there's layers to a Facebook advertisement. Layer 1 is an awareness video or a blog. And what we do is, whatever the product or service is, we put it out there in front of the target audience that matters to us, but we don't ask them to do anything. We just say, hey, take a look. And now, you know, when you get kind of deeper into the journey, there's dollar signs attached to these things. Awareness campaigns are significantly cheaper than intent campaigns. So if you go on Facebook and you run an awareness campaign, you can get, you know, you can get an individual click for a couple cents. But if you're running an intent campaign, it costs a couple dollars. So if what you want to do is use those couple cents to get that video in front of as many people as possible, to refine them, and then whoever watches the video for, you know, 85% of the time, then they get an intent action or call to action. So, you know, when you're, you know, whatever your campaigns are, whatever the things that you guys are building in social media, it's important to identify, what are you trying to do with it? Are you trying to get people to learn more about your product and tell a friend, or just get an understanding of what you do? Especially startups, early stage companies, you're not going into a market. You know, when you go on Google and you're doing a key, you know, you're searching for something, it's usually for a product that's pretty straightforward. And, you know, you look for toothpaste, you go to Amazon to buy something, you want to read about a new something that you already understand. But at the awareness level, that's where startups need to start, right? Because your product and your market is underserved, and the solution that you're bringing to the table doesn't exist yet. So you got to make sure that you start at that awareness level and create your campaign starting from the top, and then nurture them all the way to the bottom. And then that takes a certain amount of time as well. So if you run an awareness campaign on your social media, so let's say, you know, this month I'm posting videos, and pictures and things about my product, and not necessarily about, you know, why it's good for you. It's about maybe the problem the product solves, or maybe it's a story about the founders. Maybe it's a story about the origin of the product, and it's more things to get you aware of the brand and the culture of the market, the problem, and things like that. Now, what if you do that for a couple weeks or a couple months, now you have a regular audience. If you go on any of your analytical tools, so, you know, Google Analytics, things like that, if you go onto the back end of your Instagram or Facebook, you can see who are your repeat customers, who are the people that are regularly watching your awareness videos. So those people have some type of interest. So now you qualify those people to have interest, and how do you get them from interest to consideration? So that's a decision that you make internally. So you have to decide who your target market is, and then do the people that have interest align with your target market? So your target market, you know, can they afford to buy your product? Do they have, you know, how fast are they going to buy your product? You know, there's a significant amount of characteristics that define your target market. So you just do like a cross reference from the people that are interested and the people that are your target market. And the people that your target market, you give them an offer. You say, hey, come check it out for free. You know, come join this like unique event that's individually catered to X and Y people. You know, that's your target market. So, you know, at that higher level, you want to, again, to reiterate, you start with awareness campaign. So if we're talking about, you know, LaunchPad and the posting that you guys are doing, you have a ton of these events that you have going on. That is your buy. That is the thing that you want people to go to. But you have to nurture the buy at the awareness level, right? So you have so many different categories of people that could be at your buy level. Like, just as an example of who is in this call today, there's somebody here with just one, you know, graphic design, wanting to learn about marketing from that point of view. There's somebody that is trying to start a company. There's somebody, you know, there's a different types of buyer personas that you know, LaunchPad has, right? And not, you know, if when you were marketing this product, you said, or this event, if you said something along the lines of, come check out marketing to help graphic designers, come check out marketing to help startups. So there's multiple variants of, you know, your target market that you serve. So if you were starting an awareness campaign for the event, you know, a month ago or 2 months ago, you would start by just high level stuff. And then when you get closer to the date, you refine it, and you just say, look at, you know, this specific thing as well. And then you get more people in the funnel at that consideration stage when you know, get specific towards a, when you're closer to the buying stage. Does that make sense? Awesome. Now, the second piece to your marketing funnel is influencing the funnel. So how do you influence people at you know, different stages of this funnel? So you have these 6 different approaches of influence available to you, regardless of what channel you have, right? You can influence it by deciding the target market. That's a box you put yourself in. The second you decide, I want the users of my product or my service or my event to be at X age range with Y problem in this level of an emergency to take an action, like that gives you a really concentrated approach, especially if you're scaling a business. Now you have a national audience, it's easy to find these people. So the closer you get to a clearly defined target market, it gets easier and easier to get them to take a decision, especially in the early stages of a company. You want to get those early adopters, and you get those early adopters by you know, refining that target market. Once you refine the target market, you get to a point where you can determine your initial contact. So where does your target market live? Who are they? So if you're, you know, business owners, if you're doing a B2B SaaS product, you're probably going to be looking at LinkedIn. If you're looking for people at the demographic, you know, buying age of 40 and up, you're probably looking at Facebook. If you're looking at millennials, you're probably looking at Instagram. If you're looking at Gen Z, you're probably looking at TikTok. And that changes the way you do your messaging. So when you're doing any type of campaign, this is the order in which you decide. You don't start your channel first, then decide your market. You always start by defining who your ideal, early adopters are, and then you start defining where are the points of contact that I can access my early adopters. Any questions about that? Sweet. So once you get to your initial contact, that's when your messaging starts getting super valuable. And I don't want to make any assumptions here. Does everybody know what A/B testing is? Sweet. So A/B testing is what you do when you're not sure about your target market or your initial contact point, right? A/B testing is when you, again, based on your limitations, so you have your, budgetary limitations, time limitations, resource limitations. So you don't have the bandwidth to do a lot everywhere. So you decide, okay, I'm able to do X. Within what you're able to do, you're going to split that into two tests, A and B. So I'm going to try, as a SaaS product, I'm going to try, industrial manufacturing and 3D manufacturing. So, that's two target audience. So now you have two tests, A, B, it's an A and B. And then depending on, how wide your strategy is, some of the companies that we work with, we have 50 split tests at the target market level. So we pick 50 markets before we even start. And then we hit go with all of our content and things, and we decide what is the conversion rate for each market. And you start realizing it costs me $2 cheaper to acquire a client in this industry, in this test, than it is for this industry. So at where I'm at, and where depending on how much funds that you have access, you want to get as cheap access to your target market as possible. So if you have the flexibility at the early stages to do that, you should be split testing your target markets as much as you can. So same thing with initial contact. If you're not sure, maybe Instagram and Facebook is your best strategy. So you split that as well, right? And then now you get down to your messaging, you split that as well. So when, I can use an example for a company that we work for. It's called Gather Voices. It's a software platform that curates video content for associations and large enterprise companies, and kind of curates all that. So large enterprise companies is a wide range of types of companies. So what we did was we picked two types of associate. So we picked associations and event companies. So those are our two target markets. Now in event companies, we chose the initial contact point to be LinkedIn, and in our messaging to these ideal people that we're picking who we want to talk to. So we want to talk to the purchasing officers at these companies. So we're finding them on LinkedIn, and we're sending them messages. We split our test into 500 messages goes to split test A, and 500 messages goes to split test B. And A has a value proposition to say, I will solve your problem today. B has a value proposition to say, do you have a problem? So these are two approaches of messaging. One is quite confrontational, the other one is more passive. And you have no idea how people will respond. So the worst thing you can do in marketing is make assumptions, right? You make an assumption and you start with it, but you want to iterate on those assumptions. So the split test really helps you make those iterations as you go through your journey. So that's what you do with your messaging. Like what do you say to your prospect, even if you're a B2C company that's selling a product, what are the different types of ways you can communicate the value of your product? Because there's tons of different people that will use your product or service in different ways. So that there's different pain points that you can use in your messaging statements to say, hey, here's how we solve it for you. Here's how we solve it for you. So if you create those split tests, you start realizing who is faster, who's closer to intent and will take an action at the early stages of your company, so that later, when you're trying to scale, or at least, when you have funding and you're ready to scale, you know how to allocate your budget efficiently to do that. Does that make sense? Tell me if I'm making it a little too complicated. Awesome. Cool. So once you like, you know, kind of craft your messaging, you have your value proposition, right? Each target market, each person has a different value. Like you have your grand value proposition for your product where you think that's the thing that matters the most. But most companies, you know, surprise themselves when they launch, when people start using their product in ways they don't even think it's possible to be used, right? So those are kind of some research that you guys can do on your own, is how will people use this product? And that will define, you know, the different value propositions. You might think your product has one value proposition, but it might have multiple. And I might be skipping a step here. So a value proposition is basically the thing that is the most important quality for the person that's making the decision. You know, for me, if I was buying water, like the convenience matters to me more than the brand, right? There's somebody else, the brand matters. For somebody else, where it was bottled matters. So for somebody else, what it's bottled with matters. Somebody else, you know, there's so many different value propositions to make that buying decision. And you have to realize, you know, within your target market, how many variants of value propositions there are. And that helps you navigate, you know, your market as well. Same thing, you can test that as well. A/B test the same, you know, different value propositions in your market with your messaging. So that's step 4. So step 5 is the presentation. So the clarity, so that's kind of where the graphic designers here come in, right? The clarity of all of this. So this is, you know, it seems complex, but that's what the presentation is there for, to take that complexity away from the thing. The client doesn't, or the prospect or the person that's buying the product doesn't need to know how much thought was put into this. They just need to feel like they're being, you know, their thing is the most important thing being communicated. So your presentation is another thing that you have the ability to A/B test. Little things like colors can change. So the person that has, you know, their value proposition for the water bottle is it needs to be eco-friendly. If your presentation has tints of green in it, that conversion rate might go up, right? That's just a simple thing, but when you're doing large volumes of ad buying, or, you know, millions of users like seeing your product, these little things start making a difference. But at the early stages, again, you're looking at, you know, some of the broader things. It's all about clarity. You know, when you're building your presentation, you just say, is the target market being talked to? Is the, you know, is the channel clear? Is the messaging clear? Is the value proposition being communicated? Can I see all of that in under 3 seconds? And then you're good to go, right? Like if it takes me 10 minutes, like even if it's a blog, if I can skim it and get a feeling, that gives me commitment to continue and follow through with reading the thing. Right? So like the title, the subheading, all of these things are part of that presentation, of getting people to stay. And it's easy to do that from a graphic design and presentation point of view if you know what it is that makes decision making, like what are the decision making principles that your buyers have, right? So once you understand the value proposition, it becomes easier to build a presentation because you can cater your presentation to that unique value proposition. And when I say presentation, that could be a graphic banner, it could be a video, it could be a blog that you write, it could be a post you make, it could be a comment you write on a post that somebody else made. There's so many ways to present yourself, you know, in a funnel. Does that make sense? Awesome. So the next step is negotiation. So now this is when you have resistance for people to take an action, right? Most people are lazy. Like that is the biggest piece of, you know, they might want it as you might have gotten everything right, but they're lazy. You want, now the first piece of negotiation is convenience. In anything that you're doing, any market that you're approaching, you want to make it convenient. So that's a piece that you have access to. How do we make it so that this person, now that has made a decision that they love the product, they love the brand, how can they in the next, you know, 25 to 30 seconds learn, commit, and take an action and be done with it? right? Like how are you going to facilitate that for them? Like people have this, you know, people don't plan for success, and this is kind of where the negotiation piece comes in. They expect people to resist it, but what are you going to do with the people that really want it? How fast are you going to capture them? So you start with that in your negotiation. The second stage is, all right, now you're getting people that are like kind of unsure, and you know, they have no, you know, they might want it, they might not want it, they might need some more nurturing to make a decision to do something with you. Then you have steps of negotiation. So you have your offers, right? So this is called the value ladder. If you guys want to look into it, you can, but you give them different offers, and you know, spin them up as you go. So, you know, offer one, you know, come try it out, or like, here's a 25% discount. And then they're not happy with that. Okay, come try it out for free. Okay, free's not happy. Then, you know, we'll share your content with other people. Like, so there's different pieces of leverage. You can say, other than my product that you're gonna go buy or be a part of, what else do you want? And here's all the things that I can conveniently give you. So you want to make sure that you don't tie yourself to this stuff so it doesn't drain you, because it gets, you know, you want to find easy ways to that. Like companies like add stickers to their packages. You know, it makes you feel special. It makes you feel like you won. It costs them nothing. You know, so find, like, you know, cheap, friendly ways to make your negotiation. One of the easiest ways to determine how much time and money is worth spending on your negotiation is understanding clearly how much a customer is worth to you, right? Your customer lifetime value determines what you're able to negotiate. So if you have a product that sells for a certain amount, you know, and like, you know, back to these events and, you know, students, and, you know, you want a student to come here and create a startup. What's the odds of that? And how many people need to come in to get that to happen? So what is it worth spending in terms of time and money to get more people in this room to have these conversations? That gives you a really good understanding of what you're able to invest in that negotiation stage to get people to make more decisions. Once people get in, it's a lot easier to keep them there. It's that's why, like, you know, this is the influencing the initial stage of that awareness funnel. And then you have, you know, the last step is the action, right? Right here, again, make it convenient, and they make a decision. Now, this is kind of the overall way how you influence the funnel. Now, if you go back to this, all those 7 steps apply for each stage. You can go from step 1 to step 7 in awareness, and you can sell them into interest. And you can start from step 1 back to step 7, and you can sell them into consideration. And you can sell them again into intent. You can sell them intent again to buy. So those 7 steps is a good formula for you to keep people moving along through the funnel. And, like, you know, at this early stage, it's good for you guys to know this. It's probably not as applicable right now because you don't have the volume for this to be relevant right now. But this mentality is going to help you when you approach these problems. And, like, you know, your product is understanding where does your product live and how easy it is for you to start from intent. The closer you can get to intent, the better, right? If you have a network and you start growing your company based on your network, that's a ton of intent, right? Like people are telling other people about your product. They're already aware of it. They've already had interest. That's why they're reaching out to you. They've already considered it. If not, they wouldn't have showed up. Now they're ready to buy, and it's up to you to convert that, you know, that relationship into whatever action. Any questions? And there are no dumb questions. So anything at all, like, you know, I know you guys said you had some specific things that you're focusing on. If you want to talk about how this affects those specific things, I can answer that too.
I have a quick one. How far along do you start your awareness campaigns from your product development? Like, say your product's not even, it's like being developed. How far along should you, you know, at what point should you start your awareness campaigns?
That's a good question. It starts with identifying what your key objectives are. So why would you start an awareness campaign? Do you need investment? Do you need buyers? Do you need people, like, what do you want out of the awareness campaign? One of the things I would do an awareness campaign for is customer discovery, especially at the early, like, product development stage. You want the customers to influence the product at the point that it's being developed. So you might run an awareness campaign to get feedback on how far you are on your product. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank
So
you.
it's based on your objective. So if you don't have like an immediate plan to sell, there's no point doing an awareness campaign. It's pulling time away from you that isn't helpful for the product development. But if there's customer discovery that's going to educate your product development, then that's worth it. If you need your network to know about it so you can secure investment later, that's worth it. So there's like a few different reasons why you would do it pre-sale or pre-product development.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, so once you have, your your funnel and how you influence it. This is kind of focused mostly towards startups, but these are usually the 5 things that a startup has to leverage, right? And that determines how fast, like to your question, Abdullah, is, when do you start your funnel? When do you start your marketing? It depends. What is the thing that you're leveraging? Is it your idea? Is it your timing to market? Do you have a really cool thing that needs to go today? Do you have a really sweet business model, which makes, no matter what you do, it's going to be successful because it's scalable? Do you have a lot of funding that means that you can do a lot of things fast and test and fail quickly without, without worrying about failing or having to stop? And, what does your talent pool look like? What kind of resources do you have access to? So these are kind of the, some of the things that you can leverage in your marketing, is if you can determine what about your startup is the most primary point of leverage that you have access to right now. If it's an idea that's inspirational, that's kind of what you would pick for your awareness campaign, and you go from there. If it's timing to market, that means it's serving a need that hasn't been met yet, that needs to be served right away. So you could use like a social approach for that, to think about, help us get this to market quick, because the faster we go, the better it is for the world. So, this is kind of, if you have a really great business model, that might mean that you can go slower. So, if you're, for example, building a restaurant, and like you said, as an option, like that's just a kind of proven business model, right? So you can take your time with that, as opposed to kind of rushing it and trying to figure out how to affect that business model. So these are, I'm not going to jump into too much because these are like quite startup specific. But yeah, so the next thing is best place to start. I know you guys are in like a lot of like super early stage of where you are in the journey as entrepreneurs. One of the best places to start when you have a product or an idea or something that you want to learn about, or a market you want to learn about, is competitor research, right? You want to pick, there's 2 types of competitor research. You have your direct competitors and you have your adjacent competitors. If you have a unique product, you might not have a unique competitor, but that doesn't mean you don't have an adjacent competitor. And an adjacent competitor is somebody who has a product that doesn't compete with you but serves the same market, right? So consumer goods, almost all consumer goods are adjacent competitors because they're competing for the same market, but they sell different products and serve different purposes, but they're still selling to the same people that have the same need for consumer goods, right? So if you're selling food and it's a really cool recipe and a really unique idea, really cool restaurant, you might not have a competitor but all other restaurants are competitors. You might not have a direct competitor that does exactly what you do, but you have adjacent competitors. What you can do, depending on the scale of what you're doing, you can go on these different tools and figure out what your competitors are doing. So right here is Facebook ads library. That's a resource that you guys can use. So facebook.com/ads/library. Any large company that that you feel like they're running advertisement, you plug them into this, it'll show you all they're doing. It shows you all their content, how much they're liked, and you can see the split test that they're running. If I could probably show you a quick example. Is there a large company someone can think of that is running ads that they want to see?
Maybe Apple.
Sure.
Cool.
Is the ad library something that Facebook added recently, like in the past couple of years?
No, it's
Like in
been around
reaction
for a while.
Okay.
So Apple, that might be too big. They've put securities in place so that we can't see their ads. Let's find a little bit of a smaller company. Hold on, let me think of something. Okay, so this is a company that I was working with a while ago. So this is Clio, and these are the ads that they're running. So it looks like these are all the same ads, but they're not. So there is split testing here, right? It's that it's a game that we used to play as a kid, right? Can you find the difference? And they're playing that at such a large scale, so it's so similar, but let's see if we can figure it out. What are they doing differently? It might be in the targeting. Okay, so right here, so building credit doesn't have to be scary. The best way to build credit. Simple difference in their messaging statement, and they're testing against each other, right? So this will give you an idea what your market is doing, and what kind of problems they're trying to solve, what kind of messages that they've already tried. So you want to start from where, they've probably spent millions of dollars in research. So why would you not start where they left off, right? So that's one of the tools is Facebook ad library. You can just, find the company here, and if they have ads, you'll see it. The other one was Google Keyword Planner. This is a basic one. But it basically, you can pick the keywords, but I use a thing called SpyFu. You have to pay for it, but it's worth it if you're doing significant competitor research. Like, let's see, what's the University at Buffalo website? Is that it? Okay, sick. Let's see what the university's doing. So you can see here all the keywords that UB is targeting, and what they're spending on their keyword research, right? So they have, this is crazy, this is a lot of keywords, but this will help you identify, if you're competing against a university, what are they doing? These are the advertisements that they're running right now. These are maybe the programs that UB is focusing on, and this is what they're spending on those programs. And that gives you so much data to realize, okay, why are they spending on this variable more than these other variables? What does that say about your market? Recently we were working with a company that's starting somewhat of a competition to Starbucks. And we did competitor research and found out all the potential summer drinks that Starbucks is going to be making based on how they're running their advertisement, right? So that gives you an idea where to start your campaigns. Again, this might be a little high level and further down the line for you guys, but it's good to know that it's possible, right? When you get to that point, do your research before you make assumptions. And then on Instagram or any of the other social channels, hashtag research is huge. Look at the best performing competitor and look at their top repeatable hashtags, and then go to that hashtag, look at the top post, look at the types of content in that post, and that's exactly what you should be doing. Like there's no, like, people have this issue, I think, with like trying to be original. You don't need to be original right away. You can create your originality later, but if something's proven and it captures a market, start there and then figure out how to differentiate after you after you have like a proven model. Yeah, and last thing, questions for anything at all? And that was the last thing I wanted to cover.
Yeah, I actually had a question. So, from your experience, what do you think is the most efficient way of marketing on social media in terms of like reaching the largest percentage of your target market? Would it be like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook?
Okay, so two-part answer. It depends on your audience, depends on who you're looking for. So that's answer one. Answer two is Facebook, Instagram, and all these are more established channels. They have a larger pool of audience that's been generated over a period of time. But TikTok is a new platform, so they're trying to grow as well. So when you post on TikTok, your organic reach is going to be significantly better than you posting on Facebook or Instagram, because TikTok is trying to build their platform, and that's how they're going to promote content creators, because they need to do that. It's not even close to the size of these other companies yet. It might seem that way because it's so popular, but it's not. They don't have the same volume of usage, so they're going to push more of your content out on TikTok. So if but again, if the product that you're building doesn't serve the market on TikTok, then there's no point being on TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, thank you.
What's the learning curve for, you've been doing ads on, let's say you've been doing ads on Facebook for a while, but now you want to do TikTok ads for a client. What's the learning curve of doing a new platform?
It's the same principles, a different technology. So it's not really that different. Their databases are quite similar for ad buying. So it's not really, if you already know how to do it on one platform, moving over to another is not too hard. It's the same principles of, you can target people based on behavior, interests, age, usage, things like that. And it doesn't change from platform to platform.
Thanks.
Cool.
Do you use any other channels besides social media, email, and other stuff?
Yeah. So all right. So let me I'm showing you guys kind of I showed you the initial stages of a funnel, but there's the other side of a funnel. I'm glad you asked, actually. Let me pull this up. Ignore what's on the left here. Ignore all of that. That's really specific to a specific thing. But right here. So this is the same funnel. So right up here is your awareness campaign that turns into interest, consideration, prospect, sale. Now you have the back end of the funnel is your repeat customer, brand advocate, you know, and how are you going to do that? And you know, that's where you have your retention campaign. So once somebody's already purchased a product, you would send them another ad saying, here, you know, buy the next thing. And you know, that's on the other end of the funnel. You have email campaigns and newsletters that you put out where people have already decided that they want to continue the journey with you. Now you start A/B testing your email campaigns as well and putting people in different levels of interest. So a really big part of the other end of the funnel is deciding the consistency of how of your repeat customers. So how often do they want to buy or take an action with you? And you will push people out of your funnel if you force the person, like if there's a person that wants to buy every day or buy every week, and you don't give them that choice and option every week, they're going to leave you. They're going to find somebody else that can match their drive. For the person that wants to buy every month or every quarter, if you send them a thing every single day, you're going to lose them as well. So what you do is on the back end of the funnel, you figure out through some A/B testing, what is the rate of return that these customers have. I mean, same thing with like email campaigns. You have your regular newsletter that should only go out like once a month. And then there's more of like an exclusive newsletter that goes out more rapidly, but that's an opt-in. So only the people that care about more content and more actions with you will opt into the more rapid newsletter. The average consumer will stick to the monthly one. You can also have them, when they opt out of the monthly one, because that's too much for them, you want to give them an option saying, hey, do you want to sign up for our quarterly email, right? So like you want to, when people are ready to make a decision to either do more or do less, you want to give them choices that reflect their behavior. I hope that answered your question. That was a roundabout way to get there.
When would you say marketing becomes like too expensive or too costly to keep going? So like going to the next customer would cost you too much. When would you say is that point?
Usually when you start a campaign, it costs you more than you make. Usually the nature of that. That's the first 3-6 months of a campaign. What you try to do is you determine your minimum cost per acquisition. So you say, a customer is worth $2,000 for me in a year. My margins are 30%. So I can afford to spend $600 to, at the worst, and make a break even to acquire the customer. And you start your marketing campaign and it costs you, $1,000 to acquire the customer. So every time you acquire a customer, you're losing $400. Now you do that month 1 and you try it again month 2 after some testing, it's costing you $900. So what happens is now you have a rate of depreciation for your cost per acquisition. So you're seeing that, okay, every month my cost per acquisition is going down 10%. That means that in 4 to 5 months, I'm going to be past break even. Can I afford to lose money until then? And that's kind of where the equation is. Now, if you do that and then there's no rate of depreciation, then you're doing something wrong. And that's when you'd say it's too expensive to keep going.
Have you ever done a TV campaign or a newspaper campaign?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did a TV campaign. We do a few TV campaigns. Not TV, sorry. Like over the top media, so streaming, so between movies and stuff. We're quite. I guess our marketing company is very startup focused, and we're all a young team, so we lean towards young founders as well, and young founders seem to be building products for young people. So TV is probably a channel if I had like a medical product that served like a market above like 50, 60, 70 years. And there's no, we don't really have any customers that serve those markets. But if they did, we would go down those channels.
I was about to say, you're not doing any work for Life Alert or one of those people?
No. Yeah, that's if you understand the principles, the channel doesn't matter. You just, it's important to, that's I think for personally, as having a marketing company, that's why we've been doing really well and growing really fast. Is that we're not limited to we didn't master one product and trying to force every single company to use that product to succeed. We understand the formulas, so regardless of your product or your company, we know we can use different channels and different creative ways to get to the end users. And that's probably a perspective, that's probably something that most startups take with them, is like that ability to pivot and understand how to be flexible with your offering to kind of meet the needs of the customer. So, I think at the early stage of my company, no matter what, I decided that I want to work with startups and technology companies. To do that, I couldn't have a concentrated service offering because it makes no sense, because startups don't need a concentrated store. They need somebody that can do a little bit of everything and understands how to kind of put it all together. So understanding that target market helps you even in the product development stage. Because I think, personally, I think the services that we do for the companies are great, but they can always be better. And I'm constantly trying to make my services better, more affordable, like, higher quality, more return on investment, things like that. And knowing who I serve helps me do that better. Cool. Well, if you guys have any more questions, I think I'm going to put my email in chat here. So if you're going to shoot me an email and ask me something, I'm always down. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it. And good luck on all your journeys.
All right, so I'll wrap it up real quick. Thanks for coming, Christian. We appreciate everybody for attending. Our next workshop will be this Thursday at the 8th, next week at 5:30, and that's marketing yourself as a solo entrepreneur. So a little bit similar to this. We also have a couple great other events going on. Health Futures Challenge, Student to Biz, and Good Seated. And if you want to, you can sit in on the Panache final and watch, I think it's 4 teams, pitch their ideas for $26,000, I think the first place prizes. Also, we have mentor coaching and experts in residence in case you want to build up your idea. I'll drop the link in the chat in a minute. And thank you. Have a good night. Also, feel free to stay on the call for Open Coffee Club. It'll be right after this if you'd like to network with some of the UB entrepreneurship students.